All right, good to go? Okay, so thanks for meeting with me this afternoon, sir. Here I have Captain Gavin, who has been a military instructor here for coming on 2 years. Is that correct? Okay. And when I first heard about this assignment, you were one of the first people that popped in my head, 100%. That reason being, you pretty much ran the program last year, and especially with the threes and stuff. The MS3s are the class that gets prepared for advanced camp. So pretty much, which is the prerequisite to becoming a future Army officer. You did that above and beyond with developing and influencing us in order to prepare us for camp, which we all appreciate 100%. And pretty much all of us, I think it's fair to say, all of us think that you will definitely be memorable in our careers as Army officers. So, do you have any questions before we begin?
No, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions, and then it's kind of just free-ranging, open-ended, and then kind of like butterfly effect follow-up questions that will follow those.
Okay.
So my first question for you was, when was your first leadership position, and what was it? Was it like high school football or something along those lines, like back when you were like a child, or?
Okay. So I know this is cheesy, so I'd say my first leadership position was my father gave me as being the big brother. So I had two younger brothers growing up, and I think when it came to delegation, my dad was a 20-year Navy submariner, chief in the Navy, so an E7 equivalent. And so I'd say we had a healthy militarized family lifestyle growing up. But that was kind of, I'd say my first assignment, that first time I felt like a leader was for my father kind of assigning me, basically making me responsible for my two younger brothers and kind of reminding me that I had to be a leader for them and set the example and to take care of them. So be the first one.
Awesome. Did you find that to do you look back at all on that whenever you make leadership decisions now?
I do in a sense that I think especially the character qualities of leadership I think just the integrity aspects of it and selfless service and applying respect, I think those kind of build some of the internal fibers of leadership, absolutely.
Awesome. What led you to, we'll fall back to that, what led you to want to lead soldiers, and specifically in the Army, and why you chose the branch and why?
So I think it was kind of I knew I wanted to go military, and then serving as a leader for a combat platoon, that was kind of finalized through my time at ROTC. But I think it first started with my dad being military. I knew I wanted to serve in the military. I was more oriented towards the Navy at the time, and then the opportunity presented, the Army presented an opportunity, and then that's where I started to kind of see more I wanted to be a combat leader.
Gotcha. Did you ever, at a time or times, feel as if you were ill-prepared in a situation where you needed to continue leadership, and how did you shift your leadership style short and long-term from that?
So, sorry, what was that first one?
Okay. Did you ever at a time feel as if you were ill-prepared, caught in a pretty hard friction point, and at that time, how did you change your leadership style? Mm-hmm. And then the follow-up question to that was, how did that short-term change your leadership, and then looking back on that in a long-term stance, change your leadership style?
Okay. Yeah, I'd say the first time I felt unprepared was probably our first deployment back in 2011. So I was a late deployer, so I just finished up my basic officer leadership course out of Fort Benning, and I was getting to 10th Mountain, 4th Brigade, 10th Mountain, Fort Polk. Just as I got there, the unit had deployed to Afghanistan, and I was on a 2-month kind of backfill before I deployed. So I get to Afghanistan in January 2011. Within February, I'm taking a rifle platoon downrange, and in a combat environment where my whole platoon had had 3 months of combat at this point, firefights, everything like that. I felt very much unprepared for that role at that time. I felt comfortable somewhat with my training, but I didn't understand tactically what to do. I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the respect. And yeah, I think that was something throughout the whole time you felt. I don't know if I ever truly figured out how to get out of that rut, aside from just trying to show my platoon that I was confident, capable, and confident to do the job. And I think that experience of feeling unprepared and how I think the lessons that I learned later on in my Army career and how I could have negated some of that stuff is I just should have put more effort in detail and just really how do I empower my subordinates and same time set set the right direction so that we had safe patrols.
Right.
So that was kind of I don't think I learned that lesson until kind of much later though.
So kind of just more of, so the thing you really learned from that is just like prep as hard as you can.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Did you feel that Ranger School improved your leadership, like exponentially? I know it's obviously like a leadership course, but like exponentially, or how did it affect you and your career and your decision making?
So one, I'd tell you, I was absolutely surprised at how much I learned about myself after Ranger School.
Is that right?
Because the first interesting fact is I went to Ranger School much later in my career. I was a captain when I went.
Okay.
So my platoon leader time, that was all, I wasn't tabbed, right? I wasn't Ranger qualified. I didn't go until after I've had a couple deployments to Afghanistan. I consider myself a seasonal Army leader at the time. Going to Ranger School very much improved my leadership qualities because what it did more than anything is you learn it taught me how to emotionally detach myself from an environment and really look at myself kind of not only what was I doing, but how was I doing it. And that was kind of something that I took from it. And also you learn very much how to be a good leader, you have to display a lot of good competencies of selfless service to your organization. They have to be invested in your success, and the only way that you can do that is to take care of them. And that was kind of one of those things that you learn at a Ranger School.
Right. Awesome. So it's just some little questions I had off to the side that I kind of thought about after writing the main ones. Let's see. What do you think leaders lack, or like look past the most, not just Army-wise, but also like in the job force, and like what have you seen that you think is fairly easy to look over?
Oh, that's a good question. What do they look over the most? I'd say generally is just the empathy aspect of it. Is that we are most of the time a people organization. And really, when you talk about leadership, it's getting people to follow some sort of goal and to have them to give them purpose and direction and influence. And I think we lose sight of that understanding that everybody has different things going on. And I think we don't take that into consideration when we give direction or guidance or purpose.
Right. So just too much focus on the work rather than the people.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%. This kind of is more of a personal question. Did you find that the transition of becoming a father kind of made a biological change to your leadership at all? Did it like change you up that way at all?
I don't think so. I think it's a different kind of relationship and different kind of commitment with that.
Right.
I think what it does do is it does help you. You do have to kind of restructure your priorities, and I think, but at the same time, that being said, is that I also very cognizant of making sure that doesn't interfere with, career or what you do at work, things like that. But I would say not really much. I haven't felt kind of a change in the way that I lead, or whatever the case is. Definitely. Sometimes watching some, especially cadets in the program, you think about fatherhood and wonder what the next 18 years are going to be like. But
Right.
aside from that, no, nothing else.
So it didn't like change empathy-wise, like kind of seeing like your subordinates, like their perspective of being fathers and stuff beforehand?
I guess what I think about more often is I realize everybody is a child to
Right.
a set of parents. I think that is something I do think about more often.
Okay.
Is that when I see you guys particularly, I think that you guys might one day be in charge of, my son, or the fact that you guys, there's some parents out there who kind of looking at me with the expectation, you guys are somebody's Reese,
Right.
and I think that kind of pops up more frequently than it used to before. I guess.
All right, cool. And then one of my final questions that I had was just overall, away from doctrine aside, how do you define a good leader?
I think one that has a lasting impression on you that you try to emulate.
Okay.
Is just because I think actually it's good to have bad leaders sometimes, because
Right.
you can have a bad leader and just see all the mistakes or all the bad things and just stay away from them, and it'll make you a good leader. And I think a good leader is just one that you're like, I want to do all the things. So a good example. So you kind of know my backstory, where I was a military intelligence officer, branch detail infantry. My decision to go infantry was after my company commander. When I was an XO, I was a company XO. My company commander, Kevin Bolt, was a phenomenal Army officer and leader, who, working for him for a period of 6 months, was enough for me to say, you know what, I want to stay infantry because I want to be more like him, and I want his job because I see how much he loves it. I love working for him, and I wanted. So I think that's kind of the example. Is someone who you want to get up to go to work for, and then someone who you want to have that same impact on somebody else
Right.
when after it does. So I think that's kind of my definition of it.
Awesome. Yeah, that went pretty well for the most part. Do you have any questions that you feel like I should have asked you, or you wish that I did ask in this interview?
No, those are really good questions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. And do you have like any other backstories or insights that kind of back the themes that we discussed within this interview?
No, I think those are pretty solid. I like that one about, when I first felt, in charge. That was kind of started thinking back to.
I totally kind of same thing, because I'm the oldest as well, so I always had to go pick her up and go do stuff like for my sister. So I didn't even think of that, because I was thinking like football or sports. That's way back.
Yeah, that was I think what was about to come out of my mouth first was like football or like kind of I was in yearbook club or something like that. And even ROTC, I was like, when I became the S3, like in ROTC, that was like a big deal. But then really, when I think about it the most, the first time I heard that word leader, it was for my father saying, hey, you're the big brother. Your job is to keep him safe, take care of him, stuff. So, yeah. Awesome.
Well, I appreciate meeting with me this afternoon. And yeah, pretty great for the most part. Like I said before, you've pretty much been like a fatherly type mentor to us, so we definitely appreciate your time here.
All right,
thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay, so I know the video went a little over, so I'm gonna make this pretty quick. So some of the main key points that Captain Gavin made that I learned more with about leadership styles and how to be a leader is kind of, to take people into consideration more often, not to focus too much on your work. Of course, work is the whole reason of being a leader and being in a leadership position. But at the same time, the main thing that you should focus on is empathy, which was no surprise to me that he said that, because he has been super, into our lives, always asking us questions about how we're doing, how the people around us are doing. So that was probably the main takeaway I got from this leadership interview from him. Again, sorry it went over. I just think that there was a lot of good key points that he made, and all of his stories and everything that he included in the interview I felt was important enough to include and go over the time hack a little bit. So thanks for watching.